If you've ever shopped online, and let's face it, who hasn't? Chances are you've bought something from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout? The one that makes buying so incredibly easy? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes things easier, and not just for shoppers. They make it easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. It gives you a leg up from day dot with hundreds of beautiful ready-to-go templates to express your brand style so you can get up and running fast. You can tackle your important tasks from inventory to payments to analytics and more, all in one place. You can also spread your brand's word with built-in marketing and email tools built for you to find and keep new customers. And remember that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Your customers already know and love it. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. Shopify.com/realm.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Hello and welcome to Vulgar History, a feminist women's history comedy podcast. My name is Anne Foster and this is a Pride Month special. Today, I'm so excited to be able to share with you this conversation I had with Argentine writer Gabriela Cabezón Cámara, who is the author of 3 different novels, the third of which has just been translated into English. The English language title is Are Green and Trembling. And before I tell you about why you're going to be especially interested in this novel, I want to tell you a bit more about Gabriela. So, she is one of the most prominent writers in contemporary Argentine literature. Her novel Las Aventuras de la China Iron from 2017 was a finalist for the International Booker Prize. The Spanish language version of the book we're talking about today in Spanish is called Las Niñas del Naranjal, which won the City of Barcelona Prize for Literature in Spanish, as well as the Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz Prize in Guadalajara. And in addition to her work as a writer, Gabriela is also a passionate LGBTQ+ rights activist and a defender of feminism in the cultural sphere. She defines herself as a socio-environmentalist. And this book, I was so excited when I first heard about it. We Are Green and Trembling, again, is the English language title. It's just come out in English in a translation by Robin Myers. And this is a literary novel inspired by the life of a person named Antonio de Erauso. And if you see the surname de Erauso and you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you might remember 3 hour-long episodes I did a few years ago about a person that I referred to as Catalina de Erauso. It's the same person. So Antonio de Erauso is the name that this person had at the end of their life. We're going to talk about it in this episode, about the journey from being raised as a girl to choosing to live as a man to being seen as a woman again for a while and then getting permission from the Pope to live life as a man. So this is a person who lived life in a moving back and forth way, sometimes presenting as a woman, sometimes presenting as a man. By the end of their life, the name that they were going by was Antonio de Erauso, and that's the name that Gabriela uses. In this book, Gabriela uses the he, him pronouns and the name Antonio de Erauso. If you want to hear the Vulgar History episodes about this person, I used she, her pronouns, and I talked about Catalina de Erauso, and it's all the same person who is just this messy-ass person who was from the Basque region of Spain, came over to South America during the period of the conquest of the Americas, was just kind of a dirtbag, going around just like stabbing people for reasons like someone sat in front of him in a theater, the person's hat was too big, so Antonio stabbed him. Getting into arguments over card games, and then eventually joining the army, and then becoming complicit in the genocide of the indigenous people of some Latin American countries. And just this weird singular figure in history. And I was so fascinated by the saga of Antonio de Erauso / Catalina de Erauso when I first encountered it. And I was so excited to see that there is a novel about this person. And it's such a good book by Gabriela Cabezón Cámara. And so in this conversation, we talk about her inspiration for this book, how she connects the story of Antonio de Erauso with environmentalism and with indigenous environmentalism and culture. I had such a good time talking with her. I do want to just let you know, English is, like she said, Argentine writer. Obviously, Spanish is her first language. We're both speaking in English, and I'm just really excited that you can hear this conversation. I think it's a really important book, and I think she's such an important writer, and I'm so happy to be able to share this conversation with you with Gabriela Cabezón Cámara. So welcome, Gabriela Cabezón Cámara, author of We Are Green and Trembling. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you so much for talking to me today.
I love your book, so I'm happy to talk to you about your book. And my first question is, can you explain who was Antonio de Erauso?
Okay, I think I can explain it in some sense. You can never explain nobody completely. But he was born a girl at the end of 16th century. And when he was very, very, very young, almost a baby, he was sent to a convent. In those years, nobility didn't love even their children, no? They sent their own kid, 4 years old, to a convent to live away from them. And there in the convent, there was Antonio's aunt, who was a nun. And he, in those years, she grew up with her aunt in the convent. And when she was 15, one day she found the keys to open the convent door, and she went away. And she became a man in 3 days and 3 nights, like Jesus Christ took 3 days and 3 nights to go to heaven. And she didn't go to heaven. She became a he and went to the world. And I like to think about that moment, no? When a young, very, very young woman decides to go to the world and to become a man. He was very, very brave, a brave person. And then this man, this very young man, manages to have a life in Spain and later in America. And he becomes, he's brave, but he's a murderer also. He has a very deep sense of honor, and he likes to play cards for money. And honor and play cards for money, that's not a good combination, because people want to play cards for money, gets mad, and says horrible things on each other, and those horrible things were honor offendant, usually. So he starts this kind of crazy life in America, in Latin America, from Peru to the north of Argentina. And this kind of crazy life that he goes to a city and everything is okay, but one day he goes to play cards and someone tells him, you faggot, shut up. So he goes mad, kills that person, he goes to jail, he has to escape from jail. And it goes worse and worse and worse, like when you see that a little stone falls down from a mountain, and that little stone, it becomes a very, very big thing because it starts, and you can do nothing to stop it. And I guess that was his life. And at some point, he has nowhere to go because he's famous as the murderer. And as well, he's not a trust. He's not someone you can trust. And so he ends fighting with the Empire army. He fights in La Guerra de la Araucanía. That was the war they made to the Mapuche people that they never could win. Mapuche people is still fighting. And he becomes there something worse than a simple murderer. He is a genocidal murderer, a conqueror. And at last, after of a lot of adventures, after of being in jail, after of being saved a minute before being hanged, after a lot of things, he ends up in the king's court. And the king gives him the right to be a military, and that's a lot because that is the right to be a man in those years. And he ends up in the Pope's court, and the Pope says that he can use the name he wants to. So it becomes legally a man under the authority and with the blessing of the king and the Pope. So he's some kind of brave and murderer, crazy, picaresque. I don't know how to say that in English.
It's the same in English, picaresque. Yeah.
It's a picaresque character, criminal picaresque character, I think. And that's what he was. Brave and murderer. Very picaresque. He's always in the margins. No, he's not a hero. He cannot be an epic hero.
Do you remember when you first heard this story of Antonio de Erauso?
Yes, I had this girlfriend, and she had a lot of paintings in her house, and one of them was this man with a dressed with an armor. You could see he was clearly a conqueror, and this other man at his feet, and he was killing the other man. The man that was on the floor was an Indian man. So you understand what it is about, this painting. But the strange thing was that it was written in the painting, La Monja Alférez. That is the lieutenant noun, it could be translated. And I don't know what I think about nuns, but I don't think they are necessarily good people. But I was sure they were not military. And so the image became very interesting for me, and I started searching information. That was before the internet, I guess, or in the first years. So it took me a while to find his autobiography and know about his life. But that was the first image and the first thing I knew about him. He was a nun that was a military that was a man.
It's so many things. It's so, I imagine seeing that painting, how interested you would be to understand this strange situation.
I want to know who is this nun, because of course I know who Jeanne d'Arc was. Juana de Arco.
Yeah, the Joan of Arc. Yeah.
Joan of Arc. But Joan of Arc was an epic hero, and Antonio isn't.
No.
So we hadn't so much information about him. Not in Argentina. In other places of Latin America, he is more famous, but not here.
Yeah, that was my next question. So, in Latin America, how is he remembered? What is his legacy there?
It's a controversial legacy because it was a very singular character. He was a very singular character. And of course, being a nun and becoming later a military was very strange. And being a woman able to do whatever, I don't know, he was not a woman anymore. But well, being able to decide what she wanted to do with her life and to become a man and having the blessing of the king and the pope, well, it's really, really strange. So, but he was also an Indian killer. He was a conqueror. So you cannot appreciate him too much. This is a controversial legacy. He was, you have to respect his determination, but he's also a murderer. He kills for stupid things just because he's called stupid or faggot or whatever. And okay, he's remembered with all of these black and grays and whites. It's a complex figure. And there made a movie in the 50s in Mexico with Maria Felix. Maria Felix was a great diva of Mexican cinema. And they made this diva, Monja Alférez. So that was not him. He was not a diva at all. So the most famous films that were made about him were not very trustful. They were sugared. They were made for mass consumption in the 50s with that ideology. No, what can a woman do? She can disguise as a man, but she has to fall in love with another one and get married.
And Maria Felix she reminds me of Sophia Loren or someone like that. She looks very womanly.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are great divas. They're that kind of a woman who, from cinema of the 50s. They were, wow.
So very different from Antonio, who there's a portrait I've seen, very masculine presenting, very not beautiful, not trying to be beautiful.
Not at all.
A grumpy man.
Yes, he was an awful man.
Yeah.
With no neck.
And funny hair.
Yes, and a very angry face.
Yeah.
You said, okay.
And a knife. Yeah. What do you see today as the legacy of Antonio to trans history and to gay history?
I guess he is very interesting for trans and gay history because it's an exceptional character. He was an exceptional man, but he was not good, not a good man. And so we have this kind of character that, if you look at this side, he shows that we queer people always existed. It's not something that invented Judith Butler, for instance. No, we were always in history. And it's also interesting because you can see with his life that even church had different ways of approaching trans people along history, because other trans people was sent to fire, was turned on fire alive. But there also was Antonio. So it's they also appreciated that he wanted to go to good, because if you are a woman and you want to become a man, you are wishing, you are searching for virtuoso.
Virtue?
You are going to the virtue side of the world. Indeed, if you think about it, virtue and viril and virile and virtue have the same origin. Virtue has always been virile. So he meant well. She wanted to reach virtue. She wanted to become a man. The other way, no. That would never been forgiven by church. But she wanted to become a man. She wanted virtue. She was a virgin when they examined her, and I'm using her here because for at that instance when he was checked by the bishop in Peru, they thought she was a woman. It's later than church says, no, this is a man and he can be called Antonio. So it's very interesting. You can see a lot of things in this character. But he's also a conqueror, a criminal. So I guess it's very, very interesting to see that, well, you are not a good person because you are gay or trans, and you don't have to. You can be so motherfucker as anybody else, and because you are a human being, anybody else, and we sometimes forget that we have not to be better. We want to be better. We wish to be better than that, but some people don't wish to be better. Antonio, I think he didn't wish it.
Antonio comes from the Basque region of Spain. So he's different from other Spanish people. Can you talk about that?
Yes. When you read his autobiography, you surprise many times because you read he's running away because he just murdered one people or two people for the most stupid reasons. And he's running away and they are searching for him. And he meets a soldier that is also Basque. And the soldier notices he is Basque and says, "Oh, you are my brother Basque." "Oh, yes, I am. And you are my brother Basque. Okay, I'll save you." And they speak in their language and they help each other always. That is very interesting. They had these strong bonds as people, as a nation. They really had these bonds of language and culture, and they felt different from other people coming from Spain. I guess that this happened also with Gallegos or Catalanes, no, because how do you build a country? Getting together a lot of people from different languages and cultures. And if these people stays together for a long, they become a country. And I think this happened with Spain, not without violence, of course, and not always in harmony. And nowadays in Spain and in many places of the world, what was built as a country is being questioned, no? It's being criticized, and there are a lot of people that is not happy with that. So they were something like a country inside another country, and they had the feeling that they had to help each other because the other Spanish people didn't love them as they loved each other, something like that. They were a brotherhood or sisterhood, brotherhood in Antonio's case.
And now for a quick advertising break.
You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
And we're back. Antonio was lucky many times to find someone, another Basque person.
Yes, that is unbelievable. So always he needed help, appeared a Basque or a miracle. So you cannot believe how lucky he was.
Mm-hmm.
So one step and he's dead, hanging of the, and oops, the Virrey man appears and says, no, free him. Okay, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. In your book, Antonio, he spends time with the indigenous people, I don't know how to say it, the Guarani. How did you research this culture for your book?
Well, this is Buenos Aires, where I was born. And Buenos Aires was built in the place where the Paraná River ends and the Rio de la Plata opens. All the system of the Paraná River, that is a huge river, very long river that comes from Brazil, from thousands of kilometers in the north, is Guarani land. Paraguay, it's another country in the north here, it's Guarani land. Big pieces of my country are Guarani land, Uruguay, Brazil, parts of Brazil. So you need to search, but not so much because they're here. There are Guarani people living their traditional lives, and there are a lot of people that has Guarani ancestors. So we've got a lot of Guarani words, and it's not very far away. It is in our everyday life. a little, not a lot, a little, but it is there, the Guarani culture. And I traveled to the Misiones jungle, and there are Guarani people living according to their traditions. They are mistreated, sometimes killed. Their lands are robbed, are taken away from them. They're thrown out of their own lands. Okay, they are treated as our countries treat to their originary peoples. But there's still a strong culture. There are people who live in this very, in the riversides, in the jungles. They know to live these amphibian lives, and they sing beautifully, and they believe in a God that makes himself. At the same time, he's making the earth, and this God creates the world, but he's not alone in his creation. He has this hummingbird, these small birds.
Yeah, the hummingbird. Yeah.
There is this hummingbird that fits him in his mouth. So this is not said in the book, but if there is a hummingbird that fits him, there's a flower. So for these people, in the very beginning, there was something like a human being, a god, an animal, and a vegetable. So there was the three realms of life working for the creation. I find that wiser, a lot wiser than our creation myth. That is this man alone making everything, and I think they know better than us how how life is entangled. They cut us from Earth lives. Western culture cut us from nature, but we are nature. We are not another thing. So I feel and I think that we're educated in Western cultures, like myself and most Argentinians and most Latin Americans, need to go away from that culture. I think everybody needs to go away from that culture because that culture is killing us. It's killing the complex forms of Earth life. And originary people or First Nations, I don't know how to say this in English, they know how to live without killing the Earth and without killing all of us. And I think that their philosophy we need to hear, we need to learn, and we need to repair and give back lands and everything, no? Of course.
Mm-hmm. And this is in your book too. The book begins with Antonio is in the jungle with the Guarani people. Is this part of why you chose to have him in the jungle as part of your book, to have him return to the land and to change in a way?
Yes, I was thinking a lot about these cultural differences, how we became parasites, and how did they not? How did they to stay alive? That is a question. It's very difficult to answer because everything and everybody was trying to kill them and to make their lives miserable. And I wanted Antonio to be in the jungle because the jungle is the place where life web, let's say it this way, it's easier. You feel it. There's no way you cannot feel it because this is this flower that gets that birth from another flower that gives birth to another plant, and the animals are all in this web, and you feel this way of this thing that of life being aware. And it is Guarani land. And I wanted him to get in touch with the place where he was living. He lives his whole life in America. And when you read his autobiography, for instance, and he describes Lima, it's very astonishing because he only mentions that parts of Lima that were Spain, the university, the convent, the church. Well, only, and Lima was the center of a great civilization, and still today you can see things that are not Western, that are from the Incanato. And in those days, I guess it was a very magnificent Inca town. This is my cat coming in. Say hi, Liebe.
Aw.
And this
Hello.
is Coco.
Oh.
And he never. It's like he never gets in touch with that was the land where he was living. They came here, destroy everything they could destroy, and didn't get in touch, most of them. That is very astonishing. How could they not get in touch? And I wanted him to get in touch, to make contact, to be affected by the jungle, by the people, by the language, by the difference. I wanted the difference to make him able to become another, to suffer a very, very big transformation, pretty much bigger than gender transformation and everything.
It's interesting because at the beginning of Antonio's life, where he leaves the convent and becomes a man, he spends time then spending in the forest in Spain. So that's where his first transformation happens. And then in your book, he has a new transformation, again, in nature.
Yes, in another forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting what you say. I'm glad you noticed that forests were that kind of life-changing places for Antonio. I think, well, I believe in the great transformations that being present in a forest can make with anybody's life. And I'm not the only one. Now there are some doctors, medicine people sending their patients to have bath forests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have that here too. The forest bathing.
It's a forest bathing. So that is a very, very small way of being in a forest. It's the way possible for most of us nowadays if we live in a city away from forest. It's pretty much better than nothing, of course. But feeling that you are part of this huge, gorgeous web of life, it makes you change, yes, of course.
My final question for you is, writing this book in the 21st century about events from the 16th or 17th century, what connections do you see between Antonio's story and life today in Latin America?
When I started thinking about this book, it was when Australia's fires, big fires, horrible ones. And after those fires came Amazonian fires. It was terrible. And after Amazonian fires, there were very huge fires here in Argentina in what were used to be Guarani lands. And it's a very beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. There are a lot of rivers and tiny islands and trees and birds. It's a wetland, huge wetland with a lot of biodiversity. And they put it on fire. And I was thinking about colonialism, because we produce materias prima, raw things like soya, like oil, like gold, the poor cows' meat. And to do that, they need to kill everything. They need no forest, no wetlands. They need those huge pieces of land empty. So they kill everything, and they kill us in the same, because to have a lot of soya, you have to use glyphosato from Bayer Monsanto,
Mm-hmm.
and that kills people and animals and makes poison of water and of air, because they throw it from planes. And it's the same with petroleum, with oil, the same with gold, the same with a lot of things. And there is this acceleration, no? In the last 50 years, the most powerful people of the world decided that, okay, we're done. We'll kill everything, become as rich as we can, and then we go to Mars. I don't know what they are thinking. But, well, we have this monster, Musk. He says this clearly. We have a lot of monsters, but this is an easy monster to speak of because everybody knows him. Everybody knows him. And this is some kind of colonialism. It is making of Africa and Latin America desert lands. And anyway, you are not safe if you don't live in Africa or Latin America. You only will die first. But they are working against most of humanity, whether you live here or there or wherever. And this is also colonialism. And you can see these wars. We are seeing now a genocide by streaming, and it's so horrible, isn't it? And this has already happened, and it happens. It keeps happening, and I think these are similarities. Even 5 centuries or 6 centuries is a lot of time, but some things they didn't change a lot.
And I think about you were saying about the Guarani people who are still all over near where you live, and how they were there when Antonio and the other colonizers arrived. They're still there and still being threatened. Still, there's still forces trying to steal their land and to separate them from their culture. So
Yes.
it feels like not things have changed, but some things are still very much the same as in Antonio's time.
Yes, and okay, we have no option but to fight against these things that didn't change. What are we going to do? We have to fight.
Mm-hmm. But not like Antonio.
Not like Antonio, no.
Antonio fought for silly reasons.
Yes.
Thank you, Gabby, so much for talking with me today about your book. I was so happy to discover your book. I find Antonio such an interesting, strange character from history. And I'm happy that your book is there so more people can learn about this story. And your book is it's so beautiful and so interesting. And I was so happy to talk to you today.
Okay, thank you so much for talking to me and for your patience, because of I know I'm not a great English talker, but it has been great talking to you.
Thank you so much. So again, the English language version of this book is called We Are Green and Trembling by Gabriela Cabezón Cámara. If you're a Spanish reading person, you could probably get this even more easily because it won all these Spanish awards. The title in Spanish is Las Niñas del Naranjal. I'm going to say this in Spanish, but like my accent is what it is. Las Niñas del Naranjal from 2023. If you just look up Gabriela Cabezón Cámara, you're going to find this book in Spanish or also in English. Again, the English language title, We Are Green and Trembling. And if you want to hear more about Antonio de Erauso / Catalina de Erauso, I'll put a link to those episodes at the bottom of this episode. If you're listening on Spotify, I'll just like directly connect it to those episodes. But yeah, I did 3 Vulgar History episodes about this person's bananas life, which again, I was just so happy to see Gabriela's written this book, so the more people can hear about this strange story. I also wanted to mention, and Gabriela mentioned this in the interview about what's happening with climate change and with what's happening with the traditional lands of Indigenous people and just how colonization is fucking so much up for so many people. I live in Saskatchewan in Canada, which is currently dealing with wildfires in the northern part of our province, as well as the nearby province of Manitoba, which are areas that have a lot of the population of those areas are Indigenous people and historically have been inhabited by Indigenous people. And it's a real crisis going on here. So I wanted to just let you know if that is something that you're looking for ways to support. If you're listening from anywhere in the world, frankly, there's an organization called World Central Kitchen, which is an organization that, like, there's a fully staffed organization, and they send chefs into places where crises are happening. Those chefs work with the local community, local restaurants, to provide food to people, because the immediate need of so many people when they're living through a crisis is they need to eat. They need shelter and they need to eat. And World Central Kitchen is a fantastic charity that's helping out. And I've talked about them on the podcast before. And it's kind of surreal to know that they're here now, like near where I live in Canada, helping out, because it's such a crisis of what's happening with all the wildfires that are happening in Saskatchewan and also in Manitoba. If you want to support the work of World Central Kitchen to help both what they're doing in Canada as well as what they're doing, they're in the front lines of anywhere you hear that there's a crisis happening. World Central Kitchen is there. Like, they're in Gaza, they're in Ukraine. Like, they are on the scene helping out, and you can donate to them if you go to donate.wck.org, donate.wck.org. And you can donate just to them in general, or specifically their climate disaster fund earmarks funds to go towards helping people, like the people who are being affected by these wildfires in Canada right now. If you're in Canada, and I put this delineation up because it can be complicated donating to a charity from a different country from where you live. World Central Kitchen is an international charity, so you can donate to them from anywhere. If you're in Canada and you want to donate to an organization that is specifically helping the people who are affected by these wildfires, there's lots of organizations are. And one that I want to shout out specifically where I live in Saskatoon is the Central Urban Métis Federation Incorporated, or CUMFI, CUMFI, which is a community-based Métis-owned and operated nonprofit charitable organization. And they are really, that's where people here are dropping off donations for the people who are affected by these wildfires. Like, they're really stepping up in the situation. And if you want to donate to them, I will give you that link as well. You can donate to them through CanadaHelps.org, which is a place where you can do lots of charitable donations to all kinds of places in Canada. But you can get to learn more about CUMFI at cumfi.org/donate. That's cumfi.org/donate if you want to help out the people who are affected by this this disaster that's happening in the province and the country in which I live. Otherwise, I'm going to be back next week. We're doing 2 episodes a week for most of June because there's going to be the regular Wednesday episode and then the Pride Month specials on Fridays. And we're going to be talking, if you can believe it, even more about Antonio de Erauso coming up next Friday. Before then, there's going to be a regular episode of Vulgar History as well. So, I mean, just make sure that you're subscribed to Vulgar History wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, enable the automatic downloads. And when there's an episode on a Wednesday or on another day, it's going to always show up for you and you're going to always see it there. And otherwise, until next time, happy Pride Month and keep your pants on and your tits out. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Anne Foster. That's me. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severn Duo. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early, ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/AnneFosterWriter. Vulgar History merchandise is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans and for everyone else at vulgarhistory.redbubble.com. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod and get in touch with me via email at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
Can you actually change your personality if you want to? How does peer pressure work, and why is it so powerful? Should you ever really trust your gut when you make a big decision? These are just a few of the topics we've recently covered on my podcast, Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and each episode of Something You Should Know covers multiple topics that are likely relevant to you. You'll discover things you can use in your life today, right now, like how to have a great conversation, how to be more courageous, the anatomy of the perfect apology, and much, much more. To date, there are over 1,000 episodes of Something You Should Know, and we've gotten over 4,000 mostly 5-star reviews. I invite you to check out Something You Should Know. Look for the bright yellow light bulb on the blue background. Something You Should Know, wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Old West is an iconic period of American history and full of legendary figures whose names still resonate today, like Jesse James, Billy the Kid, and Butch and Sundance, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Geronimo, Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and Bass Reeves, Buffalo Bill Cody, Wild Bill Hickok, the Texas Rangers, and many more. Hear all their stories on the Legends of the Old West podcast. We'll take you to Tombstone, Deadwood, and Dodge City, to the plains, mountains, and deserts for battles between the U.S. Army and Native American warriors, to dark corners for the disaster of the Donner Party, and shining summits for achievements like the Transcontinental Railroad. We'll go back to the earliest days of explorers and mountain men, and head up through notorious Pinkerton agents and gunmen like Tom Horn. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. I'm Chris Wimmer. Find Legends of the Old West wherever you're listening now. American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts.